you guys? Welcome to a brand new episode of the Fit Women's Weekly podcast. If this is your first time tuning in, welcome to the show. I hope that you hear something within this episode that makes you go, I think I'd like to hear more from this Kindle woman. And then you'll want to go back, listen to previous episodes where there's been over 570, and of course, come back to future episodes. I put out brand new podcasts every single week. And of course, if you are already a listener, thank you for coming back. I love our little community. I love having these talks with you guys, sharing my passion for fitness, nutrition, mindset, and just living a balanced life. The good, the bad, all the things that make us human beings. I bring my over 15 years of training experience to this podcast, and I really hope that on top of just us chit-chatting like women do, I hope that you actually walk away and go, I learned something today. Anyway, welcome to the show. We are dealing with some crazy weather outside. I know everyone always likes to talk about the weather, and I'm no different. It's just a great way to kind of lead into things, get a relaxed atmosphere going, and it's something that we can all relate to, right? So yeah, if you guys, basically I'm just sharing that also because if you hear crazy noises, that's what's going on. We're actually at the start of a winter tropical storm. So it's very warm outside. It's close to 70 degrees, but we're supposed to get gusts up to around 60 miles per hour today. So let's hope that this episode goes by. We don't have any issues with power and that you guys don't hear any crazy noises in the background. I'm also a little bit nervous. My husband, Dan, just stopped by the studio so that we can change cars. He drives a small combat car. I have a really big SUV. And so when weather is crazy, he will drive my car to work. So with the rain, he feels safer in my car, but with wind, he feels safer in his car. And we're supposed to get both. So he went ahead and took my car to his work today. So fingers crossed, that is a smooth ride as well. I laugh because y'all, the storm that we're supposed to be getting is so bad that they went ahead and canceled classes today and most businesses are closing down. Me, I work for myself. I'm having a normal day. But for Dan, I asked him like, hey, are y'all doing anything? Like, are y'all getting off at lunchtime? What's the plan for your work? And he goes, no, my boss just told us to make sure to leave home early because traffic will probably be insane because of the bad weather. Way to look over your employees, right? But anyways, that's what we're going through today. I did get in a good morning run this morning because we've had such crappy weather. I feel like a lot of us have. And it was pouring down rain this past weekend, which is normally when I would have gone running. I had to cancel I didn't have to cancel my run. I'm just done running in cold, frigid, pouring down rain. I'm just not putting myself through that. And it was just cold enough and it was pouring down that I was like, nope, not gonna do it. So I canceled my run. And so today with the inclement weather, I was like, man, that's 2 running days in a row of crappy weather. But I was able to get it done this morning and it actually felt really nice because again, we have that warm temperature in the morning before the storm comes in and the wind wasn't crazy. So that felt really nice to get it done. And then I got Fit Women's Weekly Live today. It's assessment week. We started out our 8-week training program for a strong start. And anytime we do an 8-week program, we start with assessment workouts. We do an endurance focused body weight workout. And then we also do a heavy strength component that we do at the beginning. And then we'll also do at the end, just as a way to track our progress. You know, not all progress has to be tracked from pictures or from what the scale says. We also want to track our performance. So that was done yesterday with the body weight. And then today we are gonna do our strength training component. So I'm pretty excited about that. So I have a couple of hours to let my body rest and recover before I start picking up the heavy stuff. But that is not what we were talking about today. Today, I want to talk about 2 different things. One being how to maintain muscle mass when you're in a caloric deficit. So if you are dieting, you are cutting back on your overall calorie intake, how can you make sure that the weight that you lose isn't your muscle mass? Because I feel like a lot of us are going through a deficit starting off the year. A lot of people have goals to lean out, to make their lifestyle a little bit healthier. They want to see their clothes change a little bit. So how can you make sure that the weight that you lose is the weight that you actually want to lose? We're going to talk about it. And then that's actually going to go into a little bit of science chat that we're going to talk about. And that is about creatine. Should women take creatine? What are the benefits of it? we're gonna read through a scientific article together. This is not an article from Women's Health magazine or Shape magazine. This is an actual article from a medical journal, and we're gonna break it down. It's super long. We're not gonna go through the whole entire thing. I'm gonna give you guys the synopsis, because it's one thing as a trainer to say, yes, you can take creatine, right? And I will cover that in just a second. But it's another thing to say, you should take creatine, and here's why. Here are the benefits. Here are the reasons maybe you shouldn't take it. And so then you can then conclude whether that's something that you want to do or not. I feel like sometimes we all, like, especially in this influencer world, we get thrown by saying, so-and-so said that I should take it. Well, at the end of the day, we're all humans, we're all adults. You get to decide what you want to do. I can't make you do anything. I can simply say, here's the information, take it as you want, and then you can go with it and decide what you want to do. All right, so let's jump right on in. How do you maintain muscle mass when you are in a calorie deficit? Number one, don't cut your calories too much. Don't shock your body. If you're used to eating 2,000 calories a day and now you're trying to take in 1,200 calories a day, that can be a shock to your system. It's gonna try to bring itself back into a maintenance mode as fast as it can. So basically, anytime you're in a deficit, that means your body's not running optimally, right? You're not giving your body the energy that it needs to run at its full capacity. Well, the body doesn't want to do that. So it tries to figure out ways to then bring its natural setting system down to what you're giving it. And that's why most people plateau after being in calorie deficit for so long. And so if you bring your calories down too much, it's like, oh my gosh, what am I doing? What can I do to bring my needs to that? And so yes, you are gonna burn body fat, but you're also going to burn muscle mass at the same time. So instead, go into a lower deficit than probably what you prefer, because we all want overnight results, and you'll see results a little bit slower, but it will, one, be more sustainable. Your body's not gonna wanna plateau as quickly. Two, you're not gonna be starving. You're gonna be much less likely to end up with a binge or go over because you're starving and miserable, and you're gonna be able to maintain it for the long run to actually be able to hit that ultimate goal. And then also your body's gonna say, okay, I'm only in a deficit by X amount, so I'm okay giving up my body fat and keeping my muscle mass, because I can still hit to what I feel like, hit what I need to feel my best. Sometimes words are hard. So what does that mean? I would suggest going into a calorie deficit no more than 500. That would be much more on the more aggressive side. More optimally, around 250 to 300 calories is a really good deficit, which will take you losing about half a pound to 0.6 pounds per week. Now, that doesn't just mean that you need to take a calorie test, figure out what you should do, and then cut from there. So there is like what's the word I'm looking, like, y'all, I'm looking at the wind right now. It is going crazy. But there isn't like a set number. So what I suggest is figuring out your calories, figuring out your macros, try to get into your deficit, play with that for 2 to 3 weeks, see how that's giving you the results that you want. If it's not, then you can always cut back about 50 more calories and play with it a little bit until you do it. I always have to tell my clients, like, there's no one set equation that works perfectly. You do have to open up your mind and give yourself the ability to play around with things. So just because after 2 weeks it's not working, it doesn't mean that you're failing. It just means you got to get into a little bit more of a deficit. So yeah, don't cut too many calories too soon. 250, 300 calorie deficit should be a really good place to start. Number 2, make protein your priority. Again, going back to nutrition, which most of these tips are, you want to make sure that you are giving your muscle the building blocks that it needs to be able to maintain itself, and that comes from protein. It comes from the amino acids that make up protein. So if you are in a calorie deficit, but you want to make sure that you're maintaining your strength, you're maintaining your muscle mass, then you want to keep your protein on the higher side, which is about 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight that you have. Now, obviously, this also depends on people. If you are considered obese, it's going to be a lot harder to hit that protein level because it is so high. So I do consider that into effect when I'm working with clients. And so if you are considered obese, then I would recommend more of the 0.8 range of protein per pound of body weight. So yeah, anywhere from that 0.8 to 1, but I wouldn't go underneath that. Number 3, don't cut back on your strength training and don't cut back on your workout intensity. A lot of times when you're in a deficit, people try to rev up their cardio, which is fine. You do want to add more movement into the process because yes, you do burn calories that way. But what happens is a lot of times if you're increasing your cardio and decreasing your strength training just because balance of time, right? Cardio can make you super hungry. That's why a lot of people when they are doing marathon training end up either not losing weight or gaining weight when they always go into it being like, this is gonna be a great training opportunity for me to lose weight, right? But when you're doing so much cardio, it's gonna rev up your metabolism and you're gonna have those days where you just feel ravenous. So you wanna make sure that while yes, you can increase your daily activity, whether that's through cardio or steps, but also make sure that you're still adding in some really good strength training in there as well, because that is obviously going to keep your muscles working. It's gonna tell your body that, oh no, you can't let go of this muscle mass. I need it for my daily activities. Your body doesn't look at it and go, oh, she's lifting weights, or oh, she's trying to move this in order to survive, right? Because obviously if it comes to necessity, if your body knew the difference, it would look at working out of like, oh, this is just something that I do as an option to my day. I don't really need to do this. I can get rid of this muscle mass. Whereas if you're out living a caveman life and you're moving stuff around, obviously that's for necessity. So your body looks at your workout as necessity the same way that it would if you were living in a caveman world. So make sure that you're lifting that weight to maintain your muscle mass and to even build strength while you're in a deficit. That is possible for some people. For more untrained people getting into strength training or trying a new form, then you are much more likely to build muscle mass when you're in a caloric deficit than people that are really skilled and already really trained in that area. It's really hard for me if I were to go into a caloric deficit to build muscle at the same time as it is to burn body fat, but I can at least maintain my muscle while I burn body fat. Does that make sense? If you guys have questions about that, let me know. And then tip number 4 is make sure you are focusing on recovery. You've heard me say this before, you guys. Muscle and the results that you want from your workouts don't happen during your workouts. They happen during the time that you give yourself the ability to recover between your workouts. And the same thing is especially true when you are in a caloric deficit. Your body's gonna need a little bit more tender love and care to recover from one workout to the next. So make sure that you're spending time on sleep, make sure that you're giving yourself time to roll and stretch and do all the things that you can do to physically and mentally be your best. And there are some supplements to help with that. Make sure, I always recommend for most people, obviously, talk to your healthcare provider, but magnesium is never a bad thing for most people to take. Zinc is generally not a bad thing for people to take. A protein supplement can obviously help, like a good whey supplement is gonna help you hit your protein levels and make sure that it's really good high quality protein that you can take in. And then last but not least, creatine. And I know, y'all, when I first started strength training in my early 20s, I heard of creatine, but way back in the day, I thought it was a bro supplement. And I would suggest, or at least throw out there, that probably most of us did. And it's really only been in the past couple of years that creatine, to me, and which probably for you as well, has gotten this new surge in popularity. And it's no longer just looked at as a way for bros to put on muscle mass. Now there's a lot of science saying that women, even more so than men, should think about putting creatine into their daily regimen. And so with that being said, I'm gonna pull up this news article, which is in the National Library of Medicine, all right? This is a creatine supplementation in women's health, a lifespan perspective by Abby Smith-Ryan, Hannah Cabre, Joan Eckerson, and Darren Candwell. And this is very in-depth. We are not gonna cover everything. I did pull out some highlights, but basically what this article is saying is that they've done a lot of peer reviews, they've done a lot of research themselves, and what they found is that women that are pre and postmenopausal, that are, let's see, where's the exactly blah, 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 I'm trying to find a specific listing. Well, anyways, in this article, they list out like women that are premenopausal, postmenopausal, pregnant, athletes. It doesn't matter where you are, should be taking creatine. And I just want to kind of highlight a little bit of what this says. All right, so we're gonna read. Here we go. Despite extensive research on creatine, evidence for its use among females is understudied, which we all know. Studies on women, because of our cycles, most things aren't studied very well. So creatine characteristics vary between males and females, with females exhibiting 70 to 80% lower endogenous creatine stores compared to males. Basically, we don't have very much creatine, but we still have muscles. So for those of you guys that don't know, creatine is actually something that naturally is found in our muscles as creatine phosphate. And when we go to do activities, those bonds between the creatine phosphate break, and from there we get energy. So the whole idea when it comes to muscle mass, and from like the bro sessions back in the day, is that by putting more creatine into your body, it creates more of this creatine phosphate. And so that when you're lifting, you have more of it to provide more energy, so that maybe you can pump out just a few more reps, have just a little bit more energy to be able to lift that heavier weight. It's not a steroid or anything like that. It's truly energy. Think of it as like a muscle caffeine. See, understanding creatine metabolism pre and post menopause yields important implications for creatine supplementation for performance and health among females. Due to the hormone-related changes to creatine kinetics and phosphocreatine resynthesis, supplementation may be particularly important during menses, pregnancy, postpartum, during and post menopause. So I kind of laughed at that because basically that's stating every single part of a female's life, right? Postmenopausal females may also experience benefits in skeletal muscle size and function when consuming high doses of creatine, 0.3 grams per kilogram, and favorable effects on bones when combined with resistance training. So what I love about that is for women, as we get older, we all know that we tend to lose bone density, right? That's why osteoporosis and osteopenia is really important to keep in check, and our bone health is so important, and that's why strength training is so important. But what this also says is that by putting strength training into your regimen as you get older and including creatine, you're going to help your bones stay even stronger with the use of creatine. So I thought that was pretty interesting. That was a benefit that I had not heard of until I started to do more research on creatine a couple of months ago. Creatine supplements may be even effective for females by supporting a pro-energetic environment in the brain. And the purpose of this review was to highlight the use of creatine in females across a lifespan, with particular emphasis on performance, body composition, mood, and dosing strategies. So I'm not going to go into every single study that they point out. There is a lot, but I am going to talk about some of the benefits that they do talk about in here. So such as hormone balances in our premenopausal and postmenopause with estrogen. So that's obviously very important. And I think it also has to do with the fact that creatine can help us with our skeletal muscle. And when you have a good healthy dose of skeletal muscle, you're gonna have better balance with your testosterone, with your estrogen, and obviously that'll help you. So that kind of goes into like, well, duh. Strength performance and endurance. In fact, creatine is known, or I shouldn't say known. So far, the data shows that for women, creatine can actually help more with endurance training than it does with men. So also another benefit. I don't feel like I need to talk too much about strength because I already have mentioned how that works. But yes, just like with men, using creatine can help us to maintain and build more strength, more muscle. It can also help with, I do want to talk creatine considerations during pregnancy. So increased metabolic, and this is reading directly from the article again. Increased metabolic demand from growth and development during gestation, particularly from the placenta, has been associated with a reduced creatine pool. Recent human data suggests a dramatic alteration in creatine homeostasis during pregnancy, and a reduction in creatine stores during pregnancy have been linked to low birth weight and preterm birth. To date, there's growing evidence in animal models that creatine supplementation during pregnancy enhances neural cell uptake of creatine and supports mitochondrial integrity in offspring, thereby reducing brain injury induced by intrapartum asphyxia. There's some big words, y'all, that I'm having to read here. Although there are no human studies to date because nobody wants to do studies on pregnant women, right? It can be dangerous, it's a scary thing. It might be something that you want to talk to your doctor about that could provide with a safe, low-cost nutritional strategy for reducing intra and postpartum complications associated with cellular energy depletion. Further details for mechanisms and implications for creatine used during pregnancy are described in this article, but all that to say is that during pregnancy, our creatine tends to fall down. And I think that also has to do because generally when you're pregnant, you are moving less weight than you're used to, right? You're not working out as hard. You're taking more rest breaks because you're getting fatigued easier, and that's totally normal. But one way that we can possibly protect that and avoid it is to increase our creatine supplementation, and then that can also help with our baby. Now, I am not saying to take creatine if you're pregnant. I'm just saying this is what the new data is showing, and that you might want to talk to your doctor and see what their thoughts are on that. Creatine and postmenopause, we talked about it, bone health, skeletal muscle health. It's only gonna do amazing things for you as you get older and help with your bones and your weight and your metabolic health. We can also look to it as for depression and mood. Depression rates are 2 times higher among females compared to males, and the increased prevalence of depression among females has been directly linked to hormone milestones. Major depression rates increase during puberty, during the luteal phase following pregnancy, and during perimenopause. Despite the hormonal pattern, evidence suggests that this trajectory is not solely dependent on the amount of estrogen and progesterone, but rather how sensitive the brain is to these hormones. Early research examining the role of creatine metabolism in the neurochemical foundations of depression in adults demonstrated a positive relationship between cerebral spinal fluid levels of creatine and dopamine and serotonin metabolites. We've all heard dopamine and serotonin. Those are our happy things, but we never hear of creatine actually being associated with that as well. And so as we're going through periods where our creatine levels are going up and down, it could be beneficial to supplement with it to keep it raised up and keep us healthier and happier. What? Again, you never think of things like this. I always thought in my 20s, creatine was just for the purpose of building muscle, but there is so much to it, including cognition and sleep with our brain. Like obviously if it's working with our brain in order to make us happier and healthier, it would only make sense that it also helps with our cognition and our sleep abilities too. If we're happier, we're gonna be more relaxed. In fact, creatine supplementation in humans has consistently demonstrated improved cognitive performance and brain function and reduces mental fatigue during stressful mental tasks. Exactly what I just said, but pretty cool. So that's a lot to take in, right? And I'm just trying to share this because I'm trying to get out this idea that taking things like creatine is a scary thing or is something that is just for bro science, for people wanting to get bigger biceps. There's so much more to it, and I recommend everybody going out and doing their own research and then considering something like this. So the next question is, what are the downsides of it? There really aren't. Some people, specifically males, when they first start taking creatine, they can get a little bit of swelling, a little bit of bloating because their muscles are holding on to water. It is not increasing their fat, it's simply adding hydration to their muscles. But women tend to not see that creatine bloat. So that's really the only negative downside, because creatine is something that is naturally found in our bodies, and women have 70 to 80% less than men. That really, by taking creatine, it's just taking it more to a level of which we need to run optimally. We gotta take care of ourselves. So what is the amount that you should be taking? There's 2 different ways that you can go about doing a creatine supplementation. One is just starting with a daily dose of 5 grams every single day. and you're not having to do what's called a loading phase, you can just start taking 5 grams a day and you'll be good to go. Some people like to go ahead and try to max out their creatine levels so that they can start to see their results fastest amount possible. So by doing it with the 5 grams per day, it can take about 3 to 4 weeks to get the increasing muscle storage. Whereas if you do a loading phase, which is about 20 grams per day for the first week and then cutting back to 5 grams per day, then you're trying to basically flood your muscles as fast as you can with creatine so that you can get the benefits. But a lot of times when you're trying to do it that way with the loading phase, that's where you can feel a little bit bloated or just kind of feel yourself a little bit full. So that's why a lot of people prefer just to do the smaller dose. It might take a little bit longer to see or feel the results, but you're not going to see or risk feeling that like a couple of pounds of water weight being added on. So if you do decide that you want to do a loading phase first, you would do 20 grams a day where you're doing 5 grams for 4 times. So you would do like a morning, an early afternoon, a mid-afternoon, and then a nighttime. So for example, like an 8 a.m., 12 p.m., 4 p.m., and 8 p.m. But you're only gonna do that for 5 days, and then you're gonna go into the normal, which is 3 to 5 grams per day here on out. But that's the data, y'all. That's what I wanted to chat about today. I love going more into this kind of information. If you guys do as well, let me know. If there's something else that, or another supplement that you've heard of that we should talk about and break down, let me know that too. And just a reminder, I am not telling you that you need to take creatine. I'm saying, here's the information. Am I going to take creatine? Yes. But you take that information and then you decide for yourself. Obviously, of course, talk to your doctor, talk to your healthcare professional to make sure that that's something that is right for you. So that's what we got. If you have questions, let me know. Let's see, what's up for the docket for the day? Hopefully the weather is gonna be okay. It's not gonna go as crazy as they expect it to be. I've got to get the workout up on the board for the assessment workout. That is a Fit Women's Weekly Live workout only. I'm not going to share the assessment workout with you guys. If you're interested, you can of course try Fit Women's Weekly Live for free. I will put the link down in the description below so you can try it for 14 days. No risk, no obligation, no credit card required, but you can get access to today's assessment workout. You can get access to yesterday's assessment workout. And then we have over 1,000 workouts in the database because a brand new workout comes live every single day, Monday through Friday, in my online training studio. Now, does that mean that I expect you to work out every single day? Absolutely not. I try to tell people Fit Women's Weekly Live is an online training studio. So just like if you were to go to a strength studio or a CrossFit gym down the road where they have multiple classes a day every single day, it's the same thing, except that you don't have to worry about trying to get to a specific class at a certain time because you don't have to fight traffic, you don't have to mess around your schedule. I do the workouts live, but you can also then come back to the studio and hit play whenever the time is right for you, and it still feels like you're live. That's the whole idea. Freaking love it. And I hope that you do give it a try because it really is the best. And if you have goals to get stronger this year, we are now 10 days into the year, but it is not too late. Get yourself started. It doesn't matter if you start in January, February, March. If you have goals, go after them. Don't wait until next January just because it's already into almost mid-January and you haven't started. And I think that's about it. I am also getting ready to film a YouTube video where I test every single chocolate protein bar that my grocery store had. So that's gonna be a fun little experiment, y'all. The things that I do. So if you don't follow me over on YouTube, just go to YouTube. I will link it down in the show notes. But on top of the podcast, there are also much more information. I do workouts. I put out a brand new 5-minute workout every single week. And I actually just released a bombshell leggings review on YouTube too. So if you've been thinking about trying bombshell leggings, go check out the review. All right, guys, thanks for hanging with me. Make sure to subscribe, review, and share the podcast. And let me know what supplements you take. Are you taking creatine? Are you thinking about taking creatine? And if you do take it, do you feel a difference? What kind of results do you feel and see? All right, guys. Mwah. Bye.